Come on, guys. Come on. So last week, I really needed to move the chicken tractor, and I hooked it up to the lawnmower, but we had gotten a lot of rain, and it was in an uneven piece of my field where I had a bed a couple of years ago, and so there was some ruts, and it wasn't very smooth, and so I did manage to move it a little bit, and then promptly got it stuck in a rut. So Bob came out to help me. So we got it like backed up all the way here, which is like awesome because now I can easily move it back up the hill here. And I do want them back on this bed because we were weeding the dahlias here. Yeah, I'm not quite done weeding behind the chicken tractor there, but don't look there. But we have, I found quite a few cutworm when we were weeding still. I don't quite understand the cutworm life cycle, but there is still some here. So if the chickens can find any that are still around, that would be great, because I really want to put Lisianthus here next year if I feel confident that there's no cutworm here. So hopefully the chickens are happy in their new space, and I'm happy because it'll be easier to move this again. So I don't know if you remember way back on my very first video, I said one of the benefits of trying to make a weekly YouTube video was I would have a kind of like a vlog, a record of my season. So I thought it's the end of August, end of summer. It was a good time to record what's happening in my field, all the good, all the bad. I'm kind of embarrassed because there's a lot that didn't go as planned this year, and now I'm showing you, but I want to have this on record for this winter when I'm making my plans and thinking through and taking the time to educate myself on what else I need to learn, so that I don't have this happen again next year. Okay, so one of my favorite things to grow is Lisianthus. This is one area where I have some, and I have some other areas in my field too. But this, normally in August, is the prime time for Lisianthus. This is when they really shine. This is when local seasonal Lisianthus are usually at its best. They're usually full of color, my rows, and I'm harvesting tons, and they're big and beautiful and just lovely. And I do have some lovely looking Lisianthus here. They're a good height for my field. The color's good, they look healthy, there's lots of buds coming. It's just that there's too many rows here that are green and not blooming yet, and I'm kind of anxious. I have customers used to buying Lisianthus from me right now, but these are going to, I think, bloom mid-September to end of September, which Normally I love having late Lisianthus, but not this many green rows. And this is what normally my Lisianthus rows look like. I already cut a bunch out of here. I got good height, good number of blooms. The flowers look good, not a lot of bug damage. So I'm very happy. These were the first Lisianthus that went in the ground. And obviously they went in at the right time and they just grew well. So last year, a lot of my Lisianthus plants, over half my crop, were eaten by cutworm, and I learned that they're really eating in April when I should be planting Lisianthus, when the soil's cooler. So I did lose some this year when I started planting in April, and so I kind of held back planting, which is not ideal. And so this year I'm dealing with plants that are rosetting, meaning they were too long in their trays and they got planted too warm. And I have plants that survived, really small plants. This is a full-size plant. This is not cool. This is another full-size plant. It's like 3 buds, super short. I can't get the money per stem that I need for such a small plant. So yes, I can stick this in a small market bouquet and still sell it, but I would go broke if I kept producing short and small Lisianthus stems like this. So I start Lisianthus in January and February, and then I have to keep them alive for 3 or 4 months in my basement and keep them from getting a fungus where they just wilt and die. I thought that was the challenge, but the last 2 years, the challenge has been getting them in the ground on time and keeping them alive as seedlings here. So I'm eternally optimistic that next year is going to go better. But I am happy with the health of my plants once they have been in the ground this year. I've been spraying them with my compost tea and they look good, and I have very little fungal disease in the field. So that is a win for this year. So this year I have 2 beautiful green beds of dahlia. I have very little blooms yet. So I'm actually staying off of Instagram because I can't handle seeing all these other local flower farmers with handfuls of dahlias. I'm getting buds. The buds are coming. I just have a lot of green plants. So I know I planted them a couple weeks later than I should have, but I also wonder if I'm having a nutrient problem where I've just created more lush growth and less blooms. So I'm hoping they outgrow this green, all this green growing, and actually put up a lot of flowers in September. So one thing that did happen this year is, I think because I tilled this bed for so many years, I created that hard pan underneath and on the side here, and the water can't seem to get out. And we've had a decent amount of rain this year. Even though I feel like we're on a hill, the water's getting stuck at the ends of these rows, and therefore I've had some rot happen, and I've lost the dahlias at this end and a few also at the other end. So August is normally a bad bug month for dahlias. I think when the temperatures get cooler in September, it tends to solve the problem, the bug problem. Some years are not too bad. Like last year, I hardly had any bug pressure, and this year seems to be quite bad. So I'm not getting a ton of blooms from my patch. The ones that are blooming, just most of them are damaged. So I'm just deadheading them. And waiting for the new growth to come underneath, and any bugs I do find, I just kind of squish. So this is my second bed of dahlias. They got planted after that first bed did, but they're doing really well. I actually feel like these plants are healthier and probably will bloom in abundance at the same time as my first bed. I think the soil is better here, and I think part of it is I had a really good mix of cover crop going. Last year started in September, and it went through the winter, and I'm really happy with how the bed turned out and how easy it was actually to plant into that cover crop once it was just mowed down. So success there. I'm happy that both beds are weeded, so I don't want to have any more weeds going to seed out here, except for this one. Looks like we missed. But everything's stringed up and I'm ready for hopefully a really beautiful September full of lots and lots of dahlias. Okay, so I planted the second half of my season of sunflowers in this bed here, which is probably the worst dirt I have right now. It will get some love and I have a plan for it in the future, but I didn't have any other space available. So they went here. They are not as happy as they normally would be, especially the ones I had at the beginning of the season looked great. These have thinner stems. The leaves are not as green as I would like. They are still, I'm actually getting some decent ones this week, so it's not all bad, but you can just tell they're not as healthy. You can see that there's like even a little bit of rust on their leaves, which is not normally the case. Plus, I'm having tons of bug problems on my sunflowers this year. It's so frustrating. Don't normally have that, but sometimes it feels like every other stem I can't use because the bugs have gotten inside and eaten some of the petals. Last main crop that I try to grow is zinnias, which are probably the easiest thing to grow. What I did wrong this year is not plant more, and maybe that's because the cutworm ate a lot of my zinnia seedlings, and I thought I was reseeding fast enough for what they were eating, but I didn't seed enough. I just don't have enough, and it looks like a lot, but zinnias, you need a lot to really find. You have to dig through and find the good blooms. So there's hardly any. It's harder and harder to get buckets out of this bed. The back rows definitely have more, they're younger, so there's more blooms coming off of there. And I do have a few new rows still coming that I haven't started cutting off of yet. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to deadhead a little bit harder. I don't have time to cut out all the bad blooms, but I am trying to cut back more than I normally would. I'm getting water on them so that they have enough water to grow if they need it. And then I have been spraying every week with compost tea, just to hopefully I can limp along with these beds here and have enough to make it to Thanksgiving. And I feel like I've been sounding pretty negative, and maybe that's just because I'm not selling as much as I would like to this year and what my goals were. But I am happy with the progress my field is making. When I moved to this side of the farm, I don't think I realized how crappy the soil was, how hard the clay was, and how things just wouldn't thrive as they used to when I farmed in front of my house. So this is a huge success. This celosia, I've never grown celosia on this side of the farm that looked like this. And this, for most people, is an easy thing to grow, but so many of the things I've tried here don't thrive, and they're sick or they're short and stunted. So I feel like I am making progress, and it makes me so excited for next year because, like, this is lovely. Great stem length, healthy looking plants. The soil was a dream to weed here. So I'm just so excited to next year. My lesson is I want to have more rows, more variety of annuals, just more of the easy things available so that bouquet making is quicker and easier. Okay, stop. No, don't look behind me. Yes, there is some ugly parts of the farm here. There is a row behind me, and behind that there's 2 perennial rows that have gotten away on me. They're not weeded. I'm really hoping I can get on them next week. I am so close to having almost all my beds pretty weeded. There's odd weeds around, but I can snip them out as I'm cutting. But one of my goals this year was to not have beds get out of control and have these weeds go to seed. I really want to get on top of how much weed seeds are in my bed. So I grew a little bit less, and I hired my daughter a little bit more to help me weed, and I'm feeling pretty good at the state of the farm in terms of weeds. Except, don't look. Except behind me is a little bit of a mess. I think I'll end my garden tour here. This is kind of my happy place. These are the eucalyptus that overwintered. I just want to remember how well and healthy they look because I really want to try this again. And I wanted to show you the eucalyptus that I seeded in January and February. They did not also get in the ground on time, and they are so small compared to last year. Last year things were probably at least waist height, and now they're still laying on the ground. So that is a bit of a disappointment, but these rows are definitely a success for this year. And if you look beside here, the raspberries are still growing. There's a few that are showing that brown dried leaf dead look, but I think, cross your fingers, I think they might have taken hold, and I really hope next spring they're still there. And just like that, it's market day already. It's felt like a pretty busy week as we're getting ready. School starts again next week, so getting the back to school stuff. I already have one kid back at university, and we are going to get the other one settled in over the next couple days. So I'm going to wrap up my video a little bit early this week. So it's market day. I'm just busy prepping, getting everything ready for market. And I wanted to show you, I did get a bunch of my little Lisianthus cut, and I think they turned out pretty cute. Little mini bundles here. So I hope that people like them, and I hope I don't come home with any and sell them all. So the weather is gorgeous for market, and I'll let you know how market goes on next week's video. But thanks for coming on my garden tour this week, and hope to see you again next time.
Wipe the sleep from your eyes. Quit dreaming now, the sun is on the rise. And by the end of the day, this dusty room will be 1,000 miles away. Once heard it said in a song, best keep to traveling.